And there's a question about fecal transplants. What do we think about that, Dr. Roundtree?
I think they have a lot of potential. I don't think it's going to be the future because when you transplant the entire, what can we call it? The fecal microbiome, right? The human fecal you potentially can transfer things you don't want. Right?
Right.
So there's very good data out there that people that get a certain kind of colitis called C. difficile colitis, that fecal transplants are by far and away the best treatment for that. 99% effective. There's nothing in medicine that's 99% effective.
Totally.
Right. So that's a situation where I don't have any doubt that fecal transplants are the way to go. I
But that's
think the
not,
problem is some people have gotten fecal transplants and have gotten really sick from it. Some people have gotten transplants that were thin, and they got the transplants and they became obese. So we can't yet predict like
yeah.
what that's going to do. And yeah, we can screen them. But again, if somebody has MS or ulcerative colitis, another situation where I get asked about that all the time, is this the way to go? Well, I don't think it's quite ready for prime time, but it's interesting. Maybe in a very controlled environment, if you could get in a study, where they're using what's called super donors. I love saying that term. Could you imagine what kind of screening you have to go through to get called a super donor? Right? That means that they're paying you to go to the bathroom in their lab.
I'm just having these images in my head, and I'm like, I wonder what they pay and what do you have to do to be one? But maybe we can, rather than like going to the last thing maybe you would go to for a patient who's got severe gut issues, which would be maybe a fecal transplant. What are some just like easy things we could do to start rebuilding the gut function, the
Yeah,
microbiome? What?
over and over again. I mean, you might think it's probiotics, and I think probiotics are fine. I take them, I recommend them, but the data overwhelmingly shows that prebiotics, which are substances in food that feed the healthy bacteria, that prebiotics make the biggest difference for the longest period of time. And so, what are those prebiotics? Well, there's a range of them, but they're mostly indigestible fibers, right? And so this is a little bit of a paradox for some people that say, well, I've got irritable bowel syndrome and you're telling me to eat fiber, it's going to give me gas. And they might think, well, this is a bad thing. And yet the studies have shown that when you eat the Mediterranean diet, which has got a lot of prebiotic fibers in it, yeah, people can get a little bit more gas and a little bit more bloating when they do that. But when you measure their gut microbiome, it's all changed for the better.
So just put up with a little bit of gas and bloating. And these are the prebiotics are foods like onion, garlic, green
Onions,
vegetables, banana, kiwi,
yeah.
mushrooms. I mean, you can
And the
Google a
powders,
list.
you can buy if you really don't like salads and if that's too big a transition, you can buy prebiotic powders, right?
Yep.
There's a number of them out there that have green banana flour, unmodified potato starch of all things. So when you take potatoes, which we used to think were bad, 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 it's all carbs, right? Never eat them. And even white rice, we used to say white rice is all bad. It turns out when you take rice and potatoes, you cook them and then you cool them. When they cool them, it forms what's called resistant starch. And resistant starch turns out to be really good fuel for healthy bacteria in the gut.
That's really cool. I didn't know that you had to cool the rice.
You cool it, so you put it in the refrigerator.
Yep.
So that when you go get sushi, that's got the sticky rice in it, that's the kind of rice that I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's a prebiotic. So a lot of people don't know that. But I have folks just go buy the potato starch powder in a grocery store or health food store, and then just put it in a little drink and down the hatch. That and green banana flour, kiwi flour of all things. So they're all things that have been shown to be really helpful for the gut microbiome.
Yep. And if they're new to you, start slow and kind of build up over
Won't
time.
get so
Don't
much
like
gas in
the
the
full
beginning.
dose. You'll be mad at us.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Good.
you can always take gas X, um, which helps break up the gas bubbles. So it's not bad stuff. It's just soap.
Yeah. Good. So see, there you go. So prebiotics preferred over probiotics, and also just probiotics probably as food, right? Fermented foods.
Right. Um, we brought this up last time because I was talking about wild brine,
Yep.
and man, I'm going to go have some right after this interview, because I always have wild brine fermented cabbage in my refrigerator. And interestingly enough, I don't digest raw cabbage very well, but wild brine cabbage, I'm fine with it. The green cabbage,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but that stuff is addictive.
These foods are delicious, and maybe it takes time to develop a taste for them, but I always have like 8 or 9 different fermented foods because everybody in my family kind of has like the 2 or 3 that they like. And oh no, my kids don't eat it with food. I mean, they do, but they eat it as a snack. Like they come home from school, it's like, Mom, where's the sauerkraut?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
like, it's so weird, and I love you. So be open to these new things. It will matter, and it doesn't take that long for
Yeah.
things to shift at a molecular level,
Yeah.
right?
So eat
So
your greens, eat your fermented foods, eat your berries.
yeah.
And it may seem like that's really soft science. It's not soft science. That is hard science that, there is, if people ask me for the data, I can pull that up.
And there's
Uh,
a lot of data. It's not a little bit of data.
Not just
So
a little bit of data.
it just like backs up what your grandparents told you, what your parents told you. So